Hi everyone, I am going to do the page-by-page tutorial for PowerPoint Module 2, modifying a presentation. In this module, we're going to be entering text in an outline view. We'll be formatting the text and then converting some of our text to SmartArt. We're going to insert some shapes, modify them, rearrange them, and then merge them together. We'll duplicate the shapes themselves. We'll learn how to align them, and then in essence, we're actually creating our very own SmartArt. And then we're going to add some information to our footers. So let me get started with this. So I'm already in SAM, and let me locate the PowerPoint 2 textbook assignment. Let me hit cancel. I want to make sure I'm in here I am in the student view. Okay, so here's the PowerPoint 2 textbook assignment. Let's make sure we save the file correctly, so I'll go ahead and copy the file name. I'll download the file. By default, it will open up the application in PowerPoint. Alright, so our first list of skills is entering text in an outline view. So once my file is open, I'll go ahead and save the file, and then we can get started. Okay, so my file is open. I'm going to go ahead and do a file and save as. I like to save to my desktop, so I'll select that as my destination, change the file name, and then save. Alright, so I can see that I have three slides here. I'm going to click on my slide 2 thumbnail, and I want to add a new slide. So I'm going to come up to my new slide list button here, and I'm going to select a title and a content. And I see that it inserts a new slide after slide 2. We're now going to change our view and look at this from an outline view. So I'll go up to my View tab in my Presentation Views group. I'm going to go ahead and select the outline view. And what this does is it takes my slides that I currently have, and I see that information as it appears in an outline. And you'll notice that my cursor is blinking next to or is on that new slide that we entered. I'm going to just simply click my mouse, and I am going to type in the title. And as I type in off to the left, I'm going to see over on the right my title appear in this slide. So for this slide, we want to call this Water, the Strategic Commodity. I spelled that wrong, so I'll go ahead and do a quick fix on that. Put my cursor back to where it was at the end of the line. I'm going to hit the Enter key, and as I hit the Enter key, you notice that it actually will give me a new slide, but that's not what I want. I actually want to have a bullet on the previous slide, so I can simply hit the Tab key on my keyboard, and that brings me back to the previous slide. So now I'm ready to enter in some bullets. The first bullet is going to be economic efficiency. Social fairness is the next bullet. Sustainability. And the final bullet is population demands. I'm going to hit the Enter key. So notice that each time I hit the Enter key, an insertion point moves down one line. I now want to go back into a slide to create a new slide. So in order to do that on my keyboard, I need to hold down my Shift, hit my Tab, and that brings it back. So now I am working still in my outline view, but now I have a new slide with the same layout that I had previously. And so I'm going to now add my title to this, which is going to be Water and Developmental Essentials. Water, Developmental Essentials. I'm going to now automatically go into a bullet area. So I'll do a Control Enter, and now I've kind of bypassed just by hitting Enter and Tab. So we combine those two. So I'll enter in my first bullet, Household Water Safety. Catchment area is my next bullet. And my third bullet is water quality. Fourth bullet, conflict resolution. And now I'm going to move the order of my slides. So I'm going to position my cursor over the slide number 3 in my outline. And now I'm going to drag it until I see that horizontal indicator appear above slide 5. So I just changed the location of those. I'm now ready to go back to a normal view. So on my presentation views, I'm going to select normal, and that brings me back to a slide sorter view. Next, we're going to format some text. I need to activate my Home tab, so I'm going to click on the Home ribbon. The Home tab to activate the Home ribbon. I want to click on my Slide 5 thumbnail. I'm going to double-click the word Travel. From my mini toolbar, from my color list, I want to select a dark red. So the text changes color to dark red. When I click the font color in that arrow, notice the gallery appears, right? And I've selected that option from the mini toolbar. I now want to position my cursor over the title text object border. Okay, remember we call this an object. And when I do so, that broken line, it's like a dotted line, it now, when I select clicking it right on top of it, it now turns into a solid line. So it turns from a dashed to a solid line when we move the text over and click on the border object. I want to go back to my font color button. This time I'm going to go up to my font group, and I'm just going to select the font color. From my font list arrow in my font group, I want to change my font, and I want to change this to the Goody Old Style. So I'll drag down to my G's, and I will select, notice I get that live preview in back, but we're going to select Ultimately Goody Old Style. We're also going to underline this, so I'll come back up to my font group. I'm going to underline, and I want to increase the font size by 1. I also want to change my character spacing, so I'll locate that tool in my font group, and I want that to be tight. I want to deselect this, so I'm just going to click in the blank area of my slide. Alright, so next we're going to convert some text to SmartArt. We're going to click on slide number 3, and I'm just going to click in the word household. I don't need to select the placeholder. I can just click inside one of the words inside of my object, and I want to go up to my paragraph group, and I want to select Convert to SmartArt. So a gallery of SmartArt graphics, the layouts, we'll see a bunch of options. And we can preview these as I hover over. We can preview what that particular SmartArt may or may not look like. See if we like it. Ultimately, we're going to select the basic process. What appears off to the left is a text box placeholder. And as I click through each of the bullets that are listed here, notice that they are being selected in the actual graphic. If I want to close this this text pane, I can hit this button right here, and that will collapse it. If I want to open it back up, I can click it again and it will open. I want to look at more options, so I'm going to go to my layouts group, and I can see all the different options that I have. If I want to see all of them, I want to go to more layouts, and that will open up a Smart Art graphic dialog box. And from this list on the left, I can narrow down my selection. Obviously the top one says all, so I'll see all of them, but if I want to narrow them down in terms of category, I can do so. We want to select matrix, and from within this category we would like the basic matrix layout, which is the first option there, and I'm going to say OK. So I see my Smart Art change to the new graphic layout. They ask us to now move slowly over our Smart Art styles, and as I do this, you can see how the styles change in my slide. If we hit the down arrow, we'll see that there are two categories. One is called Best Match and one is called 3D. We are going to ultimately select the Intense Effect from the Best Match category. I'm going to go ahead and save my changes. And now we are going to move on to slide number 4. And we're going to create some shapes and modify them. We're going to go to in the drawing group over here, we're going to select the diamond shape. So if you need to, may need to hit the down arrow. From our basic shapes, we want to select diamond. I want to position my cursor in the blank area of slide 4 below my title, and I'm going to simply draw a diamond. Now, you have to make sure that you hold down the Shift key. So I'm actually going to undo that real quick. If I don't hold down my Shift key, here's the diamond. All right, the last one I didn't. You can see that I have no control over if it's equal or not. All right, so again, by holding down my Shift key, so I'm holding down my Shift, it doesn't matter how big or how small I make it, it's always going to be equal all the way around. So the first thing we're going to do is create a diamond. I want to modify what this looks like. So with it selected, I want to go to my Shape Styles group, activate my tools here. I want to go to my Shape Styles group here, and in my gallery, we want to locate, hover over, we see how the diamond changes, but ultimately we are going to select a Moderate Effect Orange Accent 2. From my Shape List Arrow group, I want to modify my weight, so I'm going to go down to the weight category, and I'm going to select 4.5 points. Next, I want to go to my Shape Effects button, and I want to go to the preset category, and as I mouse over, I can see the effects of what each of these presets looks like. Ultimately, we're going to select a preset 7. I'm going to go back up to the Edit Shape button, and we're going to see how we can change the shape. So I'm going to select the shape. Under my basic shapes, I select a teardrop. We can then rotate this as well. So we can go to our Arrange group and say, flip this horizontally. Now this is not the shape that we're going to stick with, so we're going to undo once and then undo again. We saw how we could insert a shape and then modify it by changing the weight, size, even just going back and then overall changing it into a completely different shape. Now we want to rearrange and we're going to merge some shapes. So I want to click on the text economic in my text box, and I actually want to change the size of this text placeholder. So I'm going to hold down my mouse and I want to make the box a little smaller, have it come to about under the A up tops here in strategic. So I'm going to make my text box there, that text placeholder, about that size. And I'll deselect. I now want to go back up to my insert shape group, and this time I'm going to select the rectangle insert shape. I'm going to come and I'm going to drag a shape right next to my diamond. Okay, a rectangle shape is going to appear now on the assignment because I drew that in, I clicked, and then I dragged down diagonally. And now I want to take this, I'm going to place it over top of my diamond. And I want to use my Smart Guides so you can see when I hold down my mouse those vertical and horizontal lines, because I want them to be in the tips of the diamond, so they're going through and creating right angles. I want to now go to my activate this format tab, and in my arrange group there's the selection pane, and they would like me to send the one shape backward. So there's options up here, but they're asking us to use this one, so that would bring that shape in the background. If I hold down my shift and then I click my diamond shape, I've now selected both of these. On my Drawing Tools Format tab on the ribbon, there's an option that says Merge Shape. And as I hover over, I see what that looks like. It merges those two together. I'm not committing to that. So the two shapes appear to be merged or combined to form a shape, but I'm just still lingering over that. I'm going to move my mouse away from that, and I want to click in the blank area of, I don't want to commit to that, so hopefully I did not. Okay, and it seems like it took, so I'm actually going to undo. So I want it to look like this, and I just want to deselect both of my shapes. I'm going to take my cursor over the merged shape option. Now, actually, I'm going to click on my rectangle shape, and then I want to say bring forward. Bring forward. In my arrange group, now I want to click on my diamond shape I'm going to deselect. I'm going to click my diamond shape first, which is kind of tough. Yep, there's my diamond shape first. Hold down my shift, and I'm going to click the rectangle shape. I'm going to go back up to my merge shaped options, and if I did this correctly, I'm going to go down to my subtract, and I want to select subtract. And to deselect, I just click in any blank area of my slide. I'm going to go ahead and close the selection pane, and whoops, I wanted to save those changes. Now we're going to edit, and we're going to duplicate some of the shapes. I want to turn on my ruler, so with my cursor on the slide, I'm going to do a right click and make sure my ruler is actually on. So if it wasn't on, make sure there's a little check mark in there, and you can actually see the rulers appear over here. I'm going to click the bottom part of my diamond shape. That selects it. And I want to drag my middle left size handlebar. Here's my left side. I want to drag that to the left approximately a ½ inch, looking at my guides up top. And then I'll release my mouse. I want to take my cursor over my diamond shape so that it changes to this symbol right here. So notice it's a single pointer, and now when I hover over the line, the edge, it turns into an arrow with a plus sign with like 4 arrows on each side. So I'm going to hold down let's see, we're going to position our over, and we're going to change it, we're going to drag it. Alright, I think they want us to drag it to the left. Alright, so we're using those little grid lines that appear. We're now going to take and position our cursor over the bottom part of our diamond shape. I'm going to hold down the Control key, and this is going to allow me to make a copy. So I'm going to take a copy of that, I'm going to drag it to the right. These are on the large side. But that's okay. With my second shape still selected, I'm going to now go to my copy list arrow on my keyboard. And there's another way that I can do this. I can say duplicate. And by doing that, I can now take that and I can drag it down below. I'm going to take this one and bring it over a little bit more because I don't want them touching. Notice as I hover over it, this is giving me, those guides are pretty helpful, making sure that everything is equidistant. So I'm going to now click on the View tab on my ribbon, and they want me to turn off the ruler. With the, make sure I get these in the correct one. So in my first shape over here, we're going to enter in some data, and it'll automatically place it, or some text. It's going to automatically place that text in the center. So I'm going to type in rainwater. Oops. First I need to define what color it's going to be. So I need to go back up to my Home tab. I'll click in that red, and now type in rainwater. Rainwater harvesting. I don't like the way that looks. I'm actually going to make my shapes a little smaller. And that should, there it goes. It should wrap around if it's the right size. And I'm going to modify each of these. Just going to drag these down a little bit smaller. This is not the correct way for this to be done. So I'm just doing this just so you have an example. So there is a way to make sure that these are, we could have just copied and done them all over again, but I don't want to mess you up on that. I just wanted to make them a little smaller. So we have entered in rainwater harvesting in the one cell, in the left, and this is actually supposed to be in a different one. I'm not concerned about that right now. I'll tell you what, I am going to remove this. I'm going to delete these two shapes, and I'm going to take this one and redo what they asked us to do. So there is the one shape. Come back up to my copy, say duplicate, whoops, undo, undo. Let's go back here. Hold down my Control, I'm holding down the wrong key. I'm holding down my Shift key. So Shift, it was only moving it. It wasn't actually doing anything. And I was holding down the wrong key. And why did that not do that? Undo. Click this again. I'm going to hold down my cursor until I see that shape. Now I know I can drag it. There we go. And then again, I'll come up to copy. I'll say duplicate. I'll bring this down here. Okay, so that's what our shapes look like. And let's see where rainwater harvesting is going to be in the bottom one. So here I'll type in rainwater. Okay, see how that automatically wrapped around to the next line. Up on the left, I'll select the shape and I'll begin typing. Again, automatically it's going to go to the center of the shape. So in my left diamond shape is going to be salt removal. And on the far right, I'll select the shape. This is going to be continuous water use. Okay, now this should wrap around. I'm not gonna worry about it. Let's save our changes. We're now going to align our objects and we're going to group them together to make it one large object. I want to do a right click because I want to turn on my grids and grid lines. And from on there, whoops, I don't want my grids and grid lines. I want from the grids and grid lines, we want guides. I just want to see guides. This is not what I'm looking for. So maybe I'll just say OK. I should see a dotted line going through and I don't see it, so let me try this again. Do a right click. Oh, here we go. Click this arrow off to the right. There we go. I want guides. This is what I'm looking for. We want to change our guide. So we want our vertical guide to be at 1.33. And we want our vertical guide, that's our horizontal guide, and our vertical guide is going to be at 0.33. And we're going to align these shapes so that they appear in this area over here. So I'm going to take my continuous, actually I'll start with my salt removal shape, and I'm going to drag it so that I see it align to how it is right here. So the top part is sitting on the horizontal guide and the left side is sitting on the vertical guide. Go ahead and take my continuous water use and I'm going to align that on to the top of my horizontal guide, and I'm going to take the rainwater and I will just place that in between those. Alright, so they want us to select both of these. I'm going to click on this icon or this shape. I'm going to go ahead, hold down my control and choose that shape, and from my format tab there's an option that says align, and I can say align to top, and we can see that the salt removal shimmied up just a bit. Next thing I want to do is I want to group my shapes together. So I also need to select that final shape down here. So I'm going to select that final shape. And I'm going to come up to my arrange group, and under group I'm going to say group, and now I've changed and made those three shapes now one shape. We need to bring back our horizontal guides back to the default setting, so I'm just going to come over here and drag that down to it says 0.00. take my vertical, drag that off to the left until I see 0.00. Go up to my View tab and turn off the guides. So you can turn the guides and the ruler on by going to the View tab in the Show group or by doing that right click. All right, these are your options. So you do have, there's another way of doing that. All right. Last thing we want to do is add some footers to our slide. So I'm going to go ahead and save my changes. I want to go to the Insert tab on the ribbon. And on the ribbon, I want to go to the group, text group, and I'm going to open up the header and footer button, and that will open up my header and footer dialog box. And I want my header and footers to appear on the slide. We have a Notes and Handouts tab, and we have a slide. So these footers are going to appear at the bottom of the slide. So the first thing I want to do is check off the date and time. And I want this to make sure it updates automatically. But I also want the date to appear like this. I want that third option in the list where the month is going to be spelled out. I also want to put some slide numbers, so I'm going to put a little check mark in the box next to the slide number. I also want to add a footer. So the footer is going to be your name. So you will type in your name here. And we want this to appear on all of our slides. So once I say Apply to All, I'm going to see it appear below here, and I'll also notice if I look closely it's going to appear on all my slides. So I'll say Apply to All, and now I can see that your name appears on the left, the date is on the right, and if I look closely these were not there. So as I go through each of the slides, I see that footer has been applied. Oh, I want to make sure that we don't have a footer on the title slide. So I actually need to go back to my header and footer, and I don't want a footer on the title slide. So let me go back to that. I keep that there. I want this. Don't show on the title slide, and then Apply to All. And now I'm coming back to my header and footer. I'm going to uncheck. I'm now on slide number 1. I now want to uncheck Don't show on Don't show on the title slide, and I want to change that. I want my first slide, my title slide, to have a title or a footer that says Striving Toward a Sustainable Future. And I'm going to, instead of saying Apply to All, I wanted to say Apply. And by doing so, I am giving a footer only for the title slide. So I'm going to say Apply. And on my title slide, I see there's my footer, Striving Toward a Sustainable Future, but my remaining slides have the previous footer that we asked for it to, that we placed in there. Alrighty, so that is the page-by-page tutorial for Chapter 2 for PowerPoint.